Hello and welcome back to Open, everyone. You know, always inviting you to get social with us. Tweet us at BronxNet TV and tweet me at Rhina Valentin. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And now we're going to do a little Jazz Moon. Jazz Moon, actually, is a debut novel from author Joe Okonkwo. Set in the age of the Harlem Renaissance, the story follows an aspiring poet named Ben. And, well, here to share more about Jazz Moon as well as the Writers' Workshop he'll be leading this Saturday, October 15, we welcome author Joe Okonkwo. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
And let's start off by congratulating you on your debut novel.
Thank you. Thank you.
How long was it in the making?
It started as a short story in 2004. I found out about a short story contest sponsored by one of those writers magazines, and the word limit was 1,500 words. And I said, oh yeah, I can write this story in 1,500 words. Well, 12 years and 95,000 words later, finally here it is.
Nice. Nice. So you really didn't have any intentions of, like most people, they go out to write a book and they go, I'm going to write a book, but you wrote a short story that led you into a book.
Right.
So what is it about the topic that led you to keep going?
Well, if I had a time machine and could go back in time to any period at all, it would be the Harlem Renaissance. It's my favorite period of history. Such a rich period culturally and politically. There was so much going on.
Fashionably. Fashionably.
Absolutely.
Yes, because it was definitely fashionably.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So much going on. It was the first time that anyone, blacks or whites, realized that black was beautiful and marketable. And you had jazz, and you had blacks on Broadway, and you had civil rights progress, and so much in terms of the visual arts, and a lot of that went across the ocean transatlantically over to Europe, and there was a great deal of Harlem Renaissance activity over there as well.
In
black
France,
writers,
right? This France is part of your book as well.
Black writers, black performers going over to Europe. So it was an incredible cultural landscape.
Yeah, I just went in reminiscence with you because it's important that this celebration continue because you're talking about an era, and I just wondered in just tapping into visiting Europe. Did you visit Europe? Were you able to experience it hands-on? Is it different in Europe? Do they treat people of color different in Europe?
I did go to Europe. I went to Paris twice to research the book. In terms of whether they treat people different, certainly during this period they did. In the 1920s, there was racism, definitely, but it was of a very different flavor than what was going on here. I mean, in the United States, you had Jim Crow and people being lynched, and blacks couldn't use the restroom or had to use a separate waiting room or a separate lunch counter. In Paris, that was not the case. The blacks were welcomed with open arms.
They celebrated their celebrity.
Yes, they were considered exotic. They were considered wild and primitive, and Europeans were into that. And so you had a lot of artists, for instance, like Picasso, who was very much influenced by African art, African masks. And so there was racism, but it was a very different flavor. Yes, someone like Josephine Baker, for example, who was probably the biggest black star, definitely, of the era, and very influential. If there had been no Josephine Baker, there would have been no Madonna, no Cher, no Lady Gaga. And she became famous by doing shows where she was the native princess or the jungle queen, or running around in a belt of bananas, so which we would consider very, quote, politically incorrect today.
Right.
But that's what the Parisians wanted, and she exploited those stereotypes, and in the process, she became an icon, perhaps not for the right reasons. So she's someone we admire, but we have to look critically at that as well.
Well, what do we call that now? Cabaret? Vaudeville? I don't know. Burlesque?
Burlesque, maybe, yeah. Burlesque.
So, it still continued, but yeah, somebody had to be the pioneer of it, right? So, leading back to Jazz Moon, right? I understand that you're going to be leading a workshop this weekend, right?
Yes.
Is it this weekend? No, next weekend.
This weekend,
This
tomorrow.
weekend. It's this weekend, right? And so, just even in the way you speak, you're very flavorful, very descriptive, very hypnotic in your work.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Like, I went to Paris, like, just looking in your eyes, so I can only imagine. Unfortunately, I did not get the book before we had him on as a guest, so I don't really know how much I would dive into your storytelling, but I get the idea, just even reading the synopsis. And so in passing that on and teaching this workshop, or I don't know, you're presenting at this workshop, what exactly are you doing this weekend?
We're going to be talking about setting the scene, and basically all predicated on the idea that places are characters too. So just like you have a human character with quirks and idiosyncrasies and flaws and great characteristics, so do places. So in Jazz Moon, for instance, Harlem is very much a character. Paris is very much a character. The various jazz clubs in the story are characters with their own distinct flavor, their own distinct personalities. And so we're going to be talking about how to create, with great specificity and great detail, creating places so you can really transport the audience, the reader, into that place.
Yeah, because just in dabbling in writing myself, the visuals of versus I guess describing the place versus being in the place, and that's challenging.
Right, it's very challenging. It takes a lot of detail, and if you're doing a historical novel like this, a lot of research, because you really want to put the audience right smack dab in that place.
How much research did you have to do?
Oh, a lot of, read a lot of books, did a lot of photo research, did a lot of internet research. This took 12 years to write, so.
That's beautiful. I love the dedication and your commitment. You decided that you were going to basically publish a story about something that that I guess mesmerized you,
right.
and I can sense that you passed it on through your writing, even though I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to read it.
I hope you will.
So thank you for coming and sharing this with our viewers. Where can they find this online?
Online, Amazon.com, or it's also at Barnes & Noble and a lot of independent bookstores as well.
Will you be doing any book signings?
I've done actually a lot of readings and signings since the book came out in May, and I'll be doing some in the coming months. So if you go to my website, joeokonkwo.com/events, all that information is there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here
Thank
with
you.
us. All right, once again, Joe Okonkwo and Jazz Moon. You can pick it up on Amazon.com and, of course, Barnes & Noble. So don't forget, the Bronx Writers Center is also going to be hosting Joe for a writing workshop taking place on Saturday, October 15th from 12 to 2 p.m. And that's happening at the Poe Visitor Center, which is located at 2640 Grand Concourse in the Bronx. And for more information on the workshop and Joe's work, visit joeokonkwo.com. We are taking a quick break, but don't go anywhere. Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.